Can you hear me there? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. Well, today is Town Hall 2023. And thank you for coming this evening. Also want to thank Lisa Roth and your staff who helped you in putting this town hall together, and I was glad you did endeavor. I want to thank you for putting it all together. Tonight's town hall is to inform the public and to clear up some misinformation that abounds through the rumor mill. There will be a question and answer after each segment. First, I'm going to start off with some of the accomplishments that I have seen during my 8 years as mayor. In 2015, the reason why I decided to run for mayor was to help our community, of course. And during that time, I mentioned that if there was no risk, there would be no benefit to this community. We would have to take some risks if we're going to move this community forward. I also wanted to go to Denver to raise awareness of Trinidad, to move forward, and during the past 8 years, I have made many presentations locally and other events across Colorado, and just talking to people in town. And I started the yearly roundtable legislative session, and I believe the first one was in 2017 or 2018. And that is the opportunity for us to bring in state legislature, people from the state legislature, as well as our representatives, not only from the state level, but also people from the federal level, all our federal representatives. We also have had the Los Angeles County commissioners, as well as city council, and that sometimes even some of the business people have just done some presentations. And just to let you know that the next roundtable will be marked this now November the 16th at 5 p.m. here at the Space Grade Project. I also started the yearly State of the City address, and I felt that it was important to yearly give an update of where the city was in that year and what the city what the next year would look like for the city of Trinidad, and some opportunities that we would have. I also helped in many regard to the Space Creek project, which you're enjoying here tonight. And I really want to reach out to Marilyn Luger. I wish she was here. And she and her team really dug in and really were the people that really dug in and moved this project forward for the years that it took to put it together. But then, I think it was in 2019, Tara Marshall, who was our service development director at the time, Tara Marshall, she called me up. This was like on December the 10th. And she said, Mayor, she was in a panic. She says, Mayor, we have an $875,000 shortfall. And she said, what are we going to do about it? And I could have said at that time, I don't know, I don't think we're going to be able to manage this. But I said, we have to try to do something. So what I did is I told her to reach out to all of the people, our funding partners that we had at that time, and I told them, I don't care if we meet here, I don't care if we meet in Pueblo, Denver, Colorado Springs, it doesn't matter. So she called all of our partners up, and a meeting was arranged in Denver, and we met right around the 15th of December. The big problem with this was that we had to get this money by the end of December, otherwise this project would have died. We would not have had this project to move forward. So when we got to Denver, I stood up and I mentioned to all the partners that were there that the two main reasons why we needed to get this money, this $875,000, was because the city had committed 12% of their general fund budget that year, and also this was Governor Hickenlooper at the time. This was his baby. We were the first project in the state of Colorado. And I said, those are the two major reasons why we need to try to come up with this money. So all of us that were around that table, there were several of us, and we all said, well, we'll try to do something. Tara Marshall and I mentioned, well, we'll try to commit $150,000. Of course, we would have to get approval by City Council. And everybody else said, well, we'll see what we can do. Well, this was right around maybe the 20th or the 22nd, I don't remember exactly what date it was. And she called me up and she said, Mayor, she says, we have our $875,000, plus an additional $300,000 that OED, I think it was OED came forward with an additional $300,000. So that was enough money to be able to finish off the entire project, this project here, the one on Elm Street. So that was really important to the city of Trinidad as to what we were able to do. In 2017, and I think I may be a little incorrect on this, it might have been a little earlier, where we started receiving the marijuana funding. And for your information, that to date, the marijuana sales collected from 2015 to 2023 is $24,785,480. It's a pretty big amount. And I believe that together with staff and city council, we have made some really, really good decisions as to how to expend that money. Because we've been able to supply our police department, fire department, our IT departments, and several other departments within the city to bring them up to where, and we're still lacking some money. It's going to an ongoing project, money that we need to fund with the various departments. But we've also been able to give some money to the nonprofits in the community, so they've all had some benefit from the marijuana revenue that we received. And during that time, it was in 2017 when we started receiving this money. City Council, I forget how much money we were going to get that year, and City Council right away wanted to say, well, how are we going to spend all this money? And I said, whoa, wait a minute. I said, we need to have and develop a rainy day fund. So after some discussion, City Council decided to put up a rainy day fund. And I think right now, according to Ms. Navarrete, we have like 1.7 or something like that, I believe, in a rainy day fund. So, so it serves its purpose. In 2018, when there was a change of the county commissioners, there's always been some concern that the city council and the county commissioners were never working together. At that time, Commissioner Luis Lopez, was the chair of the Los Angeles County Commissioner's office. And I approached him and I told him, I said, Luis, I said, isn't it about time that the city council and the county commissioners begin to work together wherever we can? We can't work on every aspect, but there might be some certain things that we can work together on. And there have been a couple of things that we have done together. I also was involved pretty heavily when we did the Fisher's Peak project. And I guess we could say that we are all proud, and I am very proud of being able to have participated from the ground at the beginning of this. The first time it was presented to me was the 4,500 acres, which was about $5 million. And I could have easily said, no, it's too risky. But I said, okay, I will take it back to City Council, see what they say, to see if they will support this project. So I went back, talked to them. They gave approval for that 4,500 acres, which is like around $5 million. But I felt that was doable. So in January, we brought in the Trust for Public Lands and Nature Conservancy at the time. The two gentlemen that were heading this up came to me and they said, Mayor, what if we could purchase the entire 19,200 acres? And I looked at them probably, but saying, what the heck is this all about? And back in my mind, I was thinking, because I asked myself, what is the price tag of this thing? At that time it was like close to $31 million. How are we going to come up with this money? So they said, we can assure you that we can get this money. So I said, let me take it back to City Council. So I got to City Council to get approval. When I mentioned it to them, they looked at me like if I was crazy. It's a heck of a lot of money. So after talking to them and assuring them that, they assured me that they could raise the money, they said, okay. So I went back and they said, let's go for it. So that's how this all began. That we were able to accomplish the Fishing Peak project because it took a lot of time. I did a lot of traveling to Pueblo, Springs, Denver, talking to people about the Fishing Peak project, CPW, even the governor's office, and other places. So, like I said, this was an endeavor that I felt needed to happen. Because if we were going to move this community forward, we had to take some sort of risk. This is a huge risk. Because back in my mind, when I went home, I was saying, what if this happens? What if this ends up in our lap? How are we going to manage this 19,200 acres? We don't have the personnel to manage this. So then when the governor decided to say, we're going to make it a state park, that took a load off of my mind and off of all the city council's minds, and we were concerned about that. So we're lucky now that we now have a state park controlled by the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And that is something that I think that we can all be proud of, whoever worked on it, that it will help move this community forward in the future. Like I said, that was an extremely high-risk item, as you can see, because the price tag ended up at $25.45 million. That's what ended up having to come up as far as funding goes. CPW, GOCO, one of them put up $7 million, the other one put up $7.5 million. And then, them too, the Trust for Public Lands and Nature Conservancy, they came up with the other $11 million to be able to finalize and to be able to buy the entire project. And that's when they were going to go out and find the funding. But then when the governor decided to make it a state park, that's where that revenue came in so that they could backfill because that's what they do. They'll buy projects, and then what they will do is get paid back from the funding that they can acquire. I was also involved with the Fox Theater. When that came around, it took a while to accomplish that. And it was simply because there was some back and forth, and we were really, really lucky that the owners of the building gave us some leeway, actually, to be able to extend it some time to be able to purchase the project. So we decided to go ahead and purchase the project, and eventually we'll be able to sign off and purchase the project. So the city actually owns the Fox Theater, Urban Neighborhoods, which is Dana Crawford and her group. They are actually now renovating. They're the ones that are in charge of renovating the entire project. It's going to take a long time, and we figure it's probably going to be $19+ million when it's all said and done. But I believe that it's going to be something that the city can be proud of once it's accomplished and once it's completely renovated. The river visioning project was approached to us, I believe, in 2020, I believe. And we decided to get the Greenway Foundation, and there again, that was another risk that we decided to take. And they have done a river visioning project. As a matter of fact, Anissa, did you move those?
They're on the windows there.
Okay, on the window. If you notice on the window, that is what they have prepared for us as to how the project will lay out in the years to come. We know that it's going to take quite some time. It's not going to be a tomorrow thing, because these projects like this, that's going to be a multi-million-dollar project as well. So it's going to go on for several years. So it's going to take a matter of time, money, and it'll change, I'm sure, from time to time. But that's the way, when a plan is put in place, the plan is a plan, that there's also changes that go along at the same time. There's also been concern over the past several years about Amtrak. A couple of people have come to me and said, Mayor, why isn't there something along the Amtrak yard down there, where people can actually, instead of sitting in their cars and waiting, why isn't there someplace that they could at least sit in away from the weather? In 2015, there was some money that was allocated and it was lost after that period of time. So I was on the Southwest Chief Amtrak Commission at the time, and I had gotten to know some friends and some people from Amtrak as well as BNSF and other people. And I talked to the people from Amtrak and I asked them, is there any way that we can resurrect some of this money and get this project going? Because I said, this is horrible. And actually, a gentleman the other day told me that he saw some lady changing her baby's diapers on the ground. It's horrible. It's horrible. So anyway, went to work on this project and worked for the last 2 years. Been prodding them, and they did finally come up with, I think, $378,000, I think it's around $378,000. I called up Amtrak, and as the CDOT, Colorado Department of Transportation, they have had to work together to get this going. And I talked to the gentleman at my contact in Denver last week, and he said that they had released the project to, I think it's Baja Construction out of Pueblo. As a matter of fact, I understand they're doing some work already down there. They're doing some excavating to get it prepared. They're waiting for the building because there's going to be about a 7-month lag time by the time they get the building. So it's going to be about 7 months. But they're in process right now of getting the ground ready, getting the foundation ready, so when that building is ready to come, that they'll be able to put it in place. So hopefully that by maybe spring, late spring, that we will have a small building of some sort that people can wait for the train station coming in or leaving. So I hope that'll happen pretty quick. The other thing I've done is, as we know, back in 1983 when Pinon Canyon was taken by eminent domain, created a lot of animosity throughout the entire county, especially the ranchers. And what I did is when in 2015, one of my personal goals was to reach out to the military and try to strengthen our relationship with Fort Carson. And as liaison from the city to Fort Carson, I have had many opportunities to attend a lot of meetings with them, Springs, here, Pinon Canyon. Last March, I even traveled to Washington, D.C., where I met 2 people from the Pentagon, and it was a large conference. There were probably, I don't know, 12,000, 13,000 people there. But I was able to meet some people there and so there's some ongoing discussion as to that property down there. In 2021, at that time, our representatives, Holtorf and Senator Heisey, they brought forth a Senate Bill 21-1250, which expressed a Justice Crime Prevention Initiative. And they let me know that this was coming around, and I said, well, how can we participate? How can we? And they said, well, you can testify. So I said, okay, when do I testify? So they set a date. At that time, our lobbyist, she told me, well, it'll be about 1 o'clock when you can testify. 1 o'clock come around, I said, yeah, maybe 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock came around, and she said, well, it might be 6 o'clock. I had her testifying at about 5 minutes to midnight. So that's one of the things that will happen as a mayor or even as a city council person, or even the county commissioners. You don't know especially if there is a controversial bill out there. There was a bill this last year that I think it's 1213, was it 1213? That came about this last year. Yeah. There were 200 or 300 people signed up. They started in the morning. They finished the next morning. It was an all-night thing. I was going to testify, but I backed off because I was going to say probably what I had to say, everybody else was going to say. So anyway, that's the type of situation that a mayor or a city council person or a county commissioner or even a resident, a citizen can get involved with. Or it takes time, so you just never know. If you decide you want to support a bill, who's going to talk and arrange, because you can testify now virtually, or you can go to Denver and testify as well. I've done both. 2 years ago, I mentioned in my State of the City address that we should approach trying to do something at Simpson's Rest, because I felt that it's an asset, an unused asset, and I felt like it was necessary to do something. And right now, I think CU students have done a study, and maybe Steve can expand on that when he comes up to talk. One of the things that is out there are funding for events. And we know we've lost a couple of events. But at the same time, I believe that going forward, we're going to have to try to sponsor some events. And depending as to what happens with this next election cycle, will determine what events we'll be able to sponsor and how much. So that's going to be very important. So hopefully that we can get that done. On to some other items I wanted to mention. The council will sometimes make unpopular decisions. These are difficult decisions sometimes, but we have to make them. And for everybody that's here, all the citizens of this community need to know that we have an excellent staff that is working for you. They do a hell of a good job. They are actually, in some regard, overworked, but they do their job. And I really want to applaud them for it. We have several of our staff here. I want to applaud them for everything they do. Like I said, we have an excellent staff all the way from city manager, all the way to our attorney, and even all of our volunteers that we have in this community. And many times, there's concern that people within City Hall are making decisions. Not true. Sometimes staff may bring some items to us of concern. Sometimes we as City Council bring items forward of concern. But ultimately, it is council is the ultimate decider. Please remember that. Council is the ultimate decider in all of these items. I believe we have a very progressive council. And some of the things that I've mentioned and some of the things that Mr. Ruger will talk about in a few minutes. And you will see how progressive we have been over the past many years. Another item I want to talk about are executive sessions. Executive sessions is a time when council goes behind closed doors, talks about a discussion, brings forward an item, and there are only certain items or certain ways that we can go into executive session. Legal matters, and there's a couple of others that are in there. And during that time is an opportunity for City Council to, if you want to argue, we can argue. If you want to throw a rock at each other, we can do that too. But at the same time, we need to have a discussion on some of these items that are in front of us. And so a lot of times, these are very difficult items that we have to make a decision on. So after discussion, we give our city manager what our thoughts are. And then after that, if it's an item that we have to bring forward in a future session or to vote on, he will take that information and bring it forward and say, how do you want to bring, do you want to vote one way, this way, this way, or this way? It just depends. Gives us them options. And in open session is where we make that decision, not behind closed doors. And that's the unfortunate thing, that any time that you have an executive session, it can raise some concerns. And that is one thing that I have been doing, is I try to limit the amount of executive sessions that we have, because I don't want to raise any concern that we are not being transparent. Because too many executive sessions can raise transparency issues. The city is financially in good shape. Talk to Cheryl. Cheryl, you've done one good job in keeping us where we need to be. Our current budget for this year and next year will be about the same. We're trying to remain flat because we just don't know where next year's funding and revenue will be at. So we will have, there's always going to be limited funding available. We have to work within those parameters. So we can't overexpend. But we do have some reserves, which we can use periodically. We will always get the graces from Cheryl to say if it's okay. And she says you can use them with this money for this project. So, but I just want you to know, the city is in good financial condition. There's a lot of rumors out there which are untrue. Last, for anybody listening in, for you here, when you want answers, please go to the source, whether it be staff, the city manager, city council, to get accurate information before believing what is posted on social media. Social media is disgusting. I wish it would go away. There's so much garbage out there. It's pathetic. It's not right. So I ask you, please, go to the source. Get the accurate information. City Council, we govern through our charter and ordinances. We cannot make exceptions. There may be a time when there may be some conflict between our charter and an ordinance, but the charter will always supersede an ordinance. So please remember that. And if anybody asks, pass it along. With that, that ends what I need to talk about, and I want to turn it over to Mr. Luber. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. We did say we would take questions between slides, so I will pause and see if anybody has any questions for the mayor before we continue on.
Any questions? State your name, please.
I'm Dane Miller.
Okay.
I've been here 15 years. I'm concerned about the medical here in Trinidad.
The medical thing?
The medical in the hospital.
Okay.
I personally fell, broke my femur and bone about 15 years ago, and my ambulance, well, they couldn't fix it for my neck. There's not a lot of specialists. There's none at the hospital. There's none. So I had to wait in one ambulance, and it went so I laid there and left for quite a while. It was very touch and go.
How long ago was that?
It was about 14 years ago.
Currently, there is a specialist at the hospital, and the reason why I knew my wife was on the reason that she had square in the hospital.
That does work.
That,
That does work.
that doesn't stop our kidneys. The specialist would open doors and stuff like that. But there is. Other questions?
And Mayor, just so everyone heard that, the question was about our medical service availability in our community.
And just a brief note on that today, we do now have in Trinidad a new walk-in facility, and that's over by Big R. And they're open 7 days a week. And on Sunday, they're open until like 8 o'clock at night.
What I'm asking, it's not the little things, but I mean, a real emergency is an emergency. And I know for a fact that some of my senior friends drive all the way to Provo or to Water Springs from one call to a doctor. And they can go to New section at the hospital was beautiful. But, yeah, there was not the staff. And I was wondering, what has to happen to get more?
That is a completely different entity from the city.
Yeah.
So my recommendation would be to go to, because I do believe that they have a regular board meeting. And then they're open to citizens. You can find out, when the meetings are, they'll determine all their CEOs.
I urge you to call Kim Lucero. She's the CEO of the hospital. And she can be able to answer any questions. It's called a big deal.
It's a big deal here in Canada.
Yes,
People
yes.
that have health issues or driving or an emergency. I mean, really, it's happening. It's a lot of people. I know. I broke my wrist. I fell to lose it. I broke my wrist on the Trinidad wrist. I had to drive myself to the Parsons. I had to lose fast. I don't know. About 3-4 years ago. I went over to the hospital and they didn't have an ambulance. And it's like I kind of didn't need an ambulance, but I mean, my wrist was like, I fell. And I drove myself back on my wrist and I did that.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say I admire you sticking to this for so many years. So you're either very dedicated or you're nuts. So my question is, both of us have been around this part of the world for a long time. What do you think, wish will happen with our economy? What direction do you see it going? We are making transitions into an outdoor recreation-based type economy. We can't rely on marijuana. That's beginning to bail on us pretty quickly. And so I just want to give us an idea of what you think Trinidad's direction is, how we're going to get there, what we're going to look like in 5 years.
Well, I will tell you this, is that, I forget when it was last summer, last winter, we had somebody that came to Trinidad, to talk to the city council. And called Echo Center, what it is, it's wood fabrication, timber, and turned into jet fuel. And there's a possibility that they would employ 90 employees full-time, who would be more than happy to take some subways so that we would build a plant. I mean, I've been talking to Linda Rose from Architects, and I talked to her about a week ago and see where she's at. They have a gap of $15 million. They're going to go for a grant from the USDA this month. I also found out, and I relayed this information to her, that there will be, from the that California, there will be a loan that is backed, a loan that will go to the city of Trinidad, to the city of the local bank, the worst of those, and also backed by the USDA. So that's one. There's another project that the city is going to talk about. But there's also another timber industry that is also available, and that would be outside of Alpharetta, that would be more the county. The county companies looking about that. So we cannot sit back on our bunches, just rely solely on creative industry and the recreational aspect of this. All of that, I think, will really stabilize our economy. And I really believe that we need to look at other small industry. The other thing that we need to look at is staple stores. We're missing some staple stores in the city. We go way back. We have Gibson, the two staples. We have Sears. We have Getty's. And I think that a lot of those have gone away. And we need to try to bring back some of these staple stores. The dream is to eliminate, not eliminate, but slow down the leak of So the next council, the next group of people that come in, that should be their focus. To reach out and try to find other industries and businesses. Does that answer the question?
Sort of.
Well, is it just reaching out, or is it creating conditions that allow, how do we do that as a council?
Now, if you create conditions,
Mayor, you may want to grab the mic. It's kind of hard to hear. I'm sure probably.
Yeah, why don't we stand here? Thank you, Andrew.
What was the question?
how do we create those conditions for people to come into the community or businesses? What we need to do is, like I said, we need to have these staple businesses, first of all. That's one. The other thing too is that we have to make sure that all of our policies that are in place are so that it's not difficult for them to be able to set up shop here. That's how he sets up. Yes, sir.
I think maybe too, hopefully, if it heads in the right direction, and I think that it is the strategic plan that we're doing, one of the intentions of that is to lay the foundation is going to help and nurture multiple economies to flourish in Trinidad.
That's true.
So,
And I think Mr. Ruger is going to expand on that himself when he gets up to speak. Yes, ma'am.
So sorry, I'm losing my voice. I'm so sorry if it's full to hear me, but I'm a recent transplant here, and I work from home. And the statistic that you all might be interested in, that I got from an organization called the Kaufman Foundation. They've been doing research out of Kansas, small towns, for longer than anybody else. They basically spearheaded that kind of research. And that means that I make my money online. I work from home. And one of the most important statistics that I just like to share is that over 50% of people will be working from home by 2030. I think it's close to almost 75% as a recent report. So I'd just like to offer that because my motivation to moving here, besides all of the wonderful and welcoming energy, and quite honestly just being burnt out from living in the city, the affordability relative to other places is just unbelievable. So I just want to offer that as some insight to the city about a potential revenue stream that isn't necessarily tourism, that isn't necessarily art, but targeting folks who work from home. Their money doesn't go very far in big cities and they don't have to live in there anymore. It's a post-COVID movement, I think, that's been accelerated. So I just wanted to explain myself, and even though I am a resident artist here, and that's one of the most amazing support systems I've had, really is the fact that the apartment was so affordable and the quality of life was so high. So I just want to offer that to folks as a maybe a sounding board or some insight.
Thank you for that, and I just wanted to expand on that a little bit. This past summer, Dr. Ever from Trinidad State College brought the people from Florence, from the Emergent Campus. How many of you have heard about the Emergent Campus? And what the Emergent Campus is people that they just need a small space to work from. But yet they could have employees in Pueblo, Arizona, all over the place. And Emergent Campus wants to come to Trinidad. From what we understand, there's one person already that is going to come. They have been working with the school district at the Park Street School, where they'll have some availability of some rooms where they could set up their businesses. So college is applying now, I think this month, for some of the funding to help establish that. I've also talked to Neil Paul, who owns the Eckhart School, and he said he also has an additional 9 rooms available if at some point there's an overflow from the Emergent Campus, because I think at the Park Street School they've only got like 10 or 12 spaces. But what's happening in Florence is they are already full. So we're talking about how do we create, the reason to come here. And to Mr. Mackey's question, if this could happen, it will drive the high-tech industry into Trinidad. Yes?
If I can add to that from the Chamber's perspective, we're looking at big initiatives in small-scale manufacturing, taking on some of the things we already have. But we just worked last week, we had a meet and greet with remote workers at the college. And we actually just, with the Chamber, we've opened up a membership plan for remote workers to come there so we can actually network those folks together. Because they bring their economy with them with not a lot of infrastructure needs. In many cases, UPS, FedEx, and a good high-speed internet connection. And we can attract those. So it's another one of the legs of the stools that I think the city's already working on. I know it's a big mission of the Chambers.
One thing I want
we're tied in with the Emergent Campus folks like this.
One of the things that I mentioned to Mr. Ruger a couple of weeks ago, we had our sit-down meeting, and I think that one of the things that maybe might be easier is that whenever there is a business or an industry or a company that wants to come into Trinidad, how do we meet them? And I really believe that what would help would maybe to set up a citizens group of maybe 4 or 5 people, maybe not even that many, maybe 3 or 4, to be like ambassadors, to know what the city offers, to be able to sit down with these people and say, this is what we offer, we can offer you. Because they would see it from a citizen's perspective, not from a government perspective. So there could be someone from city council on it. I think that would be a good idea. I think that's one thing that could be done. Other questions?
I just have a quick question on that note. So if we're talking about bringing something in for, because there was a statement made that it would be, how did you put that, Pat? Can you reiterate how you put that? Because in one sense it was like it's about workers, remote workers, but then in another sense it was about business.
Well, so
because I just, so I guess my confusion would be is I can understand if you're a remote worker, but if you have a business, how can you tie that to something that would be presented at the college or whatnot? Because running a business is different than being a remote worker.
Well, you directed that to me.
I'm kind of at both places because of how you brought it up, but again.
So there's 2 components. There's folks that are like yourself. They come here anyway. They didn't need a program. They just know they want to leave the city. They can take their economy wherever they can take it. And they're doing that in rural areas all over the country. And as the mayor just said, there are now programs that are working where you actually bring in companies that say we can have 20 workers working out of this
So
building.
we're not actually running the business out of a location.
Exactly. So
we're bringing remote work.
That's what Emerging Campus is doing.
Okay. I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
And then from what I understand is that these would be high-paying individuals that set up shop. Yes?
I'm a good example of that. I came here in 2007 and lived here for 7 years. And I was able to bring half, 20 hours a week of my job for Children's Hospital to my extra bedroom. With my other 20 hours a week, I was able to work with Phil at the foundation. I was able to work in a couple of stores. I was able to volunteer at SCRT because my job only took me 20 hours a week on my own time, in the evening, on Saturdays and Sundays. So I came and was able to really get involved in this community, and I was making twice as much money from Denver than anybody in Trinidad or Town. So I don't know how you would attract those people. No one attracted me. I came because my husband had a job. But then I worked with Howard City for a volunteer. So those are really
Well, this emerging
valuable
camp,
people to
yeah.
bring to town because, they don't cost anything. They just come here and spend their money.
This emerging campus, they will do the work for us to bring them in. Yes, ma'am?
I'm a recent transplant artist as well, and I think to attract individuals and or businesses, Trinidad's going to have to step up its FedEx and UPS deliveries. Often I wait sometimes a week with my stuff sitting in Pueblo, and they don't seem to even know where Trinidad is. So a FedEx presence and a UPS presence for more than 45 minutes a day is something that business people are really going to need.
I can address that a little bit as having the mail room, where people in remote areas have their stuff delivered to our mail room. UPS has cut their staff here just recently to where they're only allowing them to do the rural areas 2 days a week.
Did everybody hear that?
And FedEx Express is no longer here.
Yeah, I had to help Miss Barbara the other day, and they were trying to deliver her package to an address in Pueblo.
She said that UPS delivers only 2 days a week
To rural areas.
to rural areas.
So Aguilar, I think, Bon Carbo. And so the workers are concerned because many of them had forced layoffs here recently. So they're having to reconstruct all the routes. So some people are doubled on the routes. And
A lot of people in Aguilar and Mount Carmel have diabetic medicine, that was shipped, they paid for overnight. It's sitting there, and it's not coming from local, it's coming from either Alamosa or
Bill?
Yes.
One comment, in all the years I spent in the ski industry, I went to a lot of mountain towns in Colorado, and they all started off, we've talked about this before, old mining towns, lots of hippies that are very artistic, but very willing to work with the community. And what they'll do, and I think what we need to do, we just got to get more focused on it. When you make Trinidad a cool place to be, people will pay you. And that's one of the things that we got to remember. We don't have to apologize. We don't have to draw people in with money. We just got to make this the place they're going to want to be, because there are fewer and fewer places like this community that are affordable, that have the basis not only the history, the arts, the outdoors, all the other things people are looking for, but they spend millions of dollars to kind of get this false front that's put in. A lot of the towns in Colorado, Aspen, all these guys. People are looking at us going, man, you guys are still real. That's what we have to remember. And all the candidates, you got to remember, we got to stay real, but we got to stay focused. Not get diverted by big bucks, all the other things that can come along with it. We have to be very, very careful that we keep what we've got here, we make it better, so all of us can make a better life for everybody. We'll pay us to come, we'll guarantee it.
Any other questions? Yeah, I'll turn it over to Mr. Rubin this time.
Yeah, and I'll cover some of the questions that have been asked in my presentation, but I want to start out. I'm not going to read this to you because it's in the newsletter, so grab a copy. But we're floating. I'll let Anissa play with that. Anyway, show of hands, who here loves Trinidad? Yeah, I really feel like that's what we should all be bonding on. I know there's a lot of dissension in the community about particular ideas and how we move forward, and I think actually that friction is a very good thing for our community if used correctly. I've been here for over a year now, probably a year and 2-3 months, and I've not met one person who I think would say I hate this town, and if I have, they've already left this town. So the people here love Trinidad, and we all want what's best for our community, and I love the conversation that's happening so far, because it's demonstrative of all the community partners that I think we need to accomplish making this town amazing. First of all, it already is amazing. I don't want to say that it's not, but I think really we can all play our part in making this a community that just is spectacular. So I have some things that I want to talk to you about today. So Nisa can be my slide clicker because we can't afford one, an electronic one. So first of all, just kind of a summary of what I'll be talking to you about. So we have some buckets that I want to talk to you about. So private investment and economic development, and then our city budget. I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Key community initiatives, public safety improvements. I think those are incredibly important. And then, let's see, from there, let me find my slide here. Get on the same page as you all. We'll talk about some departmental initiatives as well. So I want to start with talking about private investment and economic development. I really appreciate the passion for economic development. First of all, I want to highlight some recent major projects, and I know I'm missing several that are of note, but just a few that I think are really important for Trinidad. First of all, I think we can all congratulate ourselves and thank you to the Chimino Group for their investment in our community to open up a downtown Hilton Garden Inn and do our La Puerta development. I've talked to several people. It's very unusual for a town of our size to have a Hilton Garden Inn. That's typically something you'd see in a larger community. So I think that demonstrates that even corporate America is willing to invest and take a risk in our community. And it's very exciting to see an opportunity for someone to be able to stay downtown, partake in downtown activities and have that walkable experience. The next thing I really wanted to highlight, because first of all, it's an outstanding company, but I think it demonstrates what Trinidad could be from an economic development standpoint future, and that's Sun Mountain Tofu. They're in the old Coca-Cola distribution center in our industrial park. But some of you know this story, some of you may not. They were looking for land in Denver to develop their manufacturing plant. It's about $500,000 an acre of land in Denver. And they realized, wow, it would be much cheaper to develop in Trinidad and just distribute. They actually have the contract to provide tofu for one of my favorite restaurants in Denver. It's called City O City, right by the Capitol, and they only sell plant-based food. So it's a super cool place, great bar, great coffee if you ever get a chance. And they have like cauliflower fried chicken. And it sounds gross, I get that, but give it a try. It's actually pretty good. But right here in Trinidad, we'll be producing food that will be at a notable restaurant in Denver. I think that's a tremendous opportunity. More companies we need to do our part to explain that to companies that you have that opportunity to come here and enjoy our community for what it is, but also you can meet your goals as a business that might be distributing to a larger geographic area. Phil Long Toyota, we just approved in P&Z moving forward with the site plan and the CUP for that, so we're looking forward to that getting developed very soon. I know there's a little bit of dissension on opinions on having a car dealership smack dab in our historic district, but I think it's notable to say that that's not without precedent. This building was a car dealership, for example, so it's not unusual for a city to have car dealerships in its urban core. And I think it's a great use for land that actually previously used to just be railroad tracks. So excited to see that come to fruition so we can start getting people to come downtown for reasons maybe that they otherwise wouldn't come here for. And then Ecotech, the mayor mentioned that, so I won't go into that too far, but I think it's really important that we have, the big thing I like to say about Ecotech, they are attracted to Trinidad because we are rock stars when it comes to water. We have some of the most pristine water possible. We have an abundance of it. Our water rights are spectacular. Our biggest concern, though, with water is if we have a forest fire up near North Lake, our primary water supply, and it gets contaminated, we could be on tight water restrictions and not in a position to provide safe drinking water. So we are looking long-term plans to build a redundant treatment facility so that we have that backup water supply just in case. And again, that is crucial for future economic development, especially for companies who depend on water like Ecotech for their business. But I do want to talk about continued investment. We have amazing local businesses, very passionate businesses who do a tremendous job. Most of the businesses that I go to, it's actually the owner of the business that is cooking pizza maybe, or serving food, or doing all the accounting, and I have nothing but appreciation for that. And we definitely recognize the labor shortage, but I think our local businesses are just rock stars. They do such a good job of staying open and serve our community. I'd love to see expanded hours on some of our restaurants, but I get it. Trinidad is open for business, so I think it's really important to note that we are without an economic development director right now, and there's a reason for that I'll talk about later. But we have invested a small amount of money, $4,000, to initiate with a company that's going to represent us at ICSC conferences. And that's the big retail convention and trade shows that happen all throughout the country. There's a big one in Vegas every year, I believe in August. And they will match corporate retailers to Trinidad. One of the things that I will be working with the council on is, and the community, especially the community, is what do we want to do to protect our Main Street from becoming corporatized? And the sense I get from the community is we want to keep our local businesses thriving on Main Street. So I think we really need to look at where those economic development corridors might be if we were to get a Chili's, for example. May not be a good idea to have it in this building, but it might be a great idea to have it down at Exit 11 or maybe somewhere up north and still offer that service to our community. So those are the things we're looking at. From a dollar standpoint, we've had, over the past, I would say, since 2019, 2018, about $160 million in projected private investment in our community, and that's significant. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a town of 8,300 that could brag about that level of investment in their community. And next I wanted to talk about on the economic development side, the future of economic development. So the county, the chamber, the city, and other partners are getting together. We really would like to create an economic development corporation that would serve Trinidad. The mayor talked about having some citizens advisors to that group. The benefit to having a private entity focus on economic development, in my mind, is as a city, we're subject to sunshine laws. So if someone wants to come in and develop a business, but they want to keep it secret, they really don't want their plans out there, they don't want people to know about that, we unfortunately have to provide that information upon request. And it would become a matter of public record. And to me, it's appropriate when we're dealing with people who might want to invest in our community for them to have the benefit of a little bit of privacy up front before they decide to invest or till they get to that point. And that's what an economic development corporation can do for us. So we will be looking heavily into that. I would envision it would be some semblance of a nonprofit and a very transparent, open organization that provides reports to the community, the council, the commission, all of those things. What you were talking about earlier, I think, is something we're very passionate about here in Trinidad. I can't think of a better place to be what I would call a digital nomad. We have amazing internet. People don't realize that. With CenturyLink, there are, of course, and Comcast and CCOM, there are some gaps here and there, but overall, we could have a data center in our community and support that pretty well. And James isn't throwing things at me. Is that true, James? Okay, thank you. So there is kind of a misconception. I think what we're seeing, though, is outside of the municipal limits, it's hit and miss on internet service provision. So that's something we would be happy at the city level to partner with the county to help fill that in, because what's good for Los Angeles County is also good for the city of Trinidad. So let's go on to the next slide, and I'll try to be quick on this, but I did want to make sure to highlight our financial health and budget. I'm sure there's a lot of rumors going around about the city's budget and where we're at. So we'll be candid with you tonight. Marijuana sales tax revenue, significant decline. I believe we're about 67% down, is that right, Cheryl? Approximately, in what we were collecting a couple years ago. The amazing thing, though, is the city council, when we started receiving sales tax revenue on marijuana, adopted a tremendous policy that I'm in love with. We don't spend marijuana revenues until we receive them. So we consider it one-time revenue that we can put towards special projects, supporting our boards and commission initiatives, supporting gap funding if we have a need. So our overall general fund is not dependent on the marijuana industry. So it is sad to see the decline. And what that's going to mean is we're going to have less capital projects. We're going to have less options to spend marijuana money on one-time projects. But it's not going to affect our ability to serve our residents, and that's crucial. So moving from there to general sales tax revenue, we are seeing a moderate decline. Like the mayor said, we're considering next year flat compared to this year, although we did cut revenue projections for this year as well. So revenues are declining. I was at the International City County Manager Association conference in Austin a couple weeks ago and talked to several of my colleagues, city managers throughout the country. We're not unique. The entire economy in our country is showing a modest decline right now. And personally, things I used to pay $3 for at the grocery store are now $7.99. And I know we're all suffering and feeling that. So we really have to question our own personal spending. And of course, that has an ancillary impact on our revenues as well. But grants have been huge for Trinidad. So I just wanted to summarize. These are approximate numbers, but we're about at $31 million, $31.5 million in total investment on grants. About 12 million of that is local matching funds, and that always is going to be the case. We have to put our money where our mouth is and demonstrate that we're meeting our grant requirements and our commitments. But for our $12,000, we got about $31.5 million of investment in our community. So it's a great return on investment. And that comes out to about 38% local funding. So lodging tax is something I really want to highlight. We, the council, restructured our lodging tax ordinance. I'm hoping most of you have read about that. It's really exciting for us. So originally, under our old structure, lodging tax revenue would have gone entirely to marketing and advertising the city, and no options for capital expenditures or anything like that. So it would have had to go to 100% to potentially pay a private firm to market and advertise Trinidad, which is a good thing. But we're generating about $500,000 a year currently in lodging tax, and we expect that to increase with the new hotel. So that's a lot of tax dollars to put just towards marketing and advertising our community. So we've restructured how we spend lodging tax. So now 35% of it goes to marketing and advertising our community. 30% of it will go to quality of life. 20% of it will go to staffing to support the tourism industry. And then 10% will go to arts and cultural events. So we'll have a dedicated fund for supporting our arts and culture. I realize it's not a ton of money, but it's a good start for the city to be able to support those types of things in our community. And then 5% of it can be reserved for miscellaneous expenditures. So really excited for that structure. We're getting a lot of attention from the Colorado Tourism Office. They love our ordinance. They think that it can be a model for lodging tax ordinances in other communities in Colorado. So it's great to get that feedback. And then just a couple of other things. Fees for services are a significant portion of our revenue. So we do charge fees for use of our facilities, for example, and some of the services we provide. Investments, I won't give you the exact numbers, but I will tell you, we made a policy decision to join the municipal investment pool? Local government investment pool, which is an investment pool that's specific to local governments across the country. We are rocking it. Our investment revenue is tremendous right now. So Cheryl doesn't want us to spend money because she wants us just to gain money, which is not a bad thing. But that's really been a saving grace for us to have some significant revenues from our investments. So very happy with our financial policies right now. Going forward, one of the big things that we want to work on in 2024 is having a healthier and more robust capital improvements plan so we can do a better job of prioritizing our capital projects in our community. Okay, the next slide is the big one, and I know you've been here for a long time, so I'll go through this fairly quickly, but I just wanted to hammer in some of the major projects that we're working on and the significance for Trinidad. These are in no particular order, but I'm going to start with downtown area-wide planning. Using some EPA Brownfield grant funding that we have engaged Stantec to come in and do a area-wide plan for our downtown to help us decide what downtown should be in the future, what type of businesses should we be attracting, what areas of downtown should be for specific uses. There's been community meetings on that, and I know several of you have been involved in that, so thank you for your participation. Space to Create, what a tremendous venue. The council has authorized the investment of over $100,000 for improvements to this building. Some of it's going to be restructuring a few of the things that we'd like to see happen here. But the big thing is we're going to do a significant improvement on audio-visual in this facility so that we can have robust events. It could be a convention center, concerts could happen here, proms, weddings, bar mitzvahs, whatever. But we'd like to get people who have no other reason to come to Trinidad to come here, see this amazing facility, and tell their friends and family how great we are. I go to a lot of conferences that are either at stuffy conference centers or hotels, and I would much rather be in this facility learning and being educated than I would sitting along drywall and cheap chandeliers. Booba. We have a company that's very interested in partnering with us to leverage some Reconnecting Communities grant money federally to build a robust transportation system. So we've authorized partnering on a grant application to do a feasibility study only at this point. That'll be a community-driven event, and whatever the results of that community feasibility study portray, we'll move forward and make decisions based on that. We're working on the National Community Survey. That's administered by a company called POPCO. It's a statistically valid survey. Some of you may have gotten a yellow card in the mail followed by an actual survey that you can fill out. I would encourage you, if you got that, please fill it out and return it and give us your feedback. It's about 106 questions that are standardized across the country. Countless cities do it, and we can benchmark how our community is doing compared to other areas. Talked about the lodging tax ordinance restructure. We just completed an outdoor recreation study, which we're digesting and incorporating into our policy decisions. A couple of notes on Fisher's Peak State Park. We were approached to provide water for the facility, which we are more than happy to do. So we are working with them to provide water for their campsites. They'll be filling a tank and providing that. And also their welcome center, we've asked for space in that welcome center for us to put a welcome booth, at least, specific to Trinidad, so we can capture people going to that park. So they might want to come here. Main Street redesign, we are working with SGM Engineering to do all the way from I-25 almost to Commercial Street and do a robust redesign, beautify it, taking into account parking, all of that stuff, and that's underway right now. We have our new, what we colloquially call the Osla property, but 280 acres of land that the city has purchased and exchanged other land for west of town that can be an outdoor paradise. And so we're excited to see how that develops. The mayor mentioned Simpson's Rest redesign. We're partnering with the architectural school for UC Denver. Their graduate students are helping us do a redesign. And we have some capital funding that we've already identified to make that a beautiful landing. We're looking at acquiring some land up there as well to expand the opportunities and make that a focal point for visitors in our community. The Fox Theater rehabilitation, the mayor mentioned that as well. He's right. I think we need about $19 million more to go. But I will say we've already committed about $78 million into the project through phase 1. So a lot of work has been done, and these things do take time, but we will get there. We've updated almost all of our utilities meters to contemporary meters, which will allow us to provide better services to our residents, and for you all to make sure we're accurately charging you for utilities and services. We get to be the bad guys owning all of our utilities because we get to do all the rate increases, so apologies for that. But our poor billing staff gets yelled at quite a bit. But I promise you, we would never do a utilities rate increase unless we absolutely had to. And even with what our residents pay for their utilities, we are subsidizing considerably the services in forms of appropriations from the general fund, marijuana revenue, and grants as well. First Street rehabilitation, hopefully you guys have seen it, and it speaks for itself. We'll soon be meeting with CDOT. We were supposed to meet Thursday, but that got canceled because of the bridge collapse, to talk about maybe reconfiguring exit 14 and having better access southbound into town. We'll soon be starting the Santa Fe Trail Bike Pedestrian Path project, which will connect downtown to Fisher's Peak, so that's super exciting. We just completed, we're waiting on some of the final results of a golf course study to see how we can get to a better model for operating our golf course. Central Park is under rehabilitation right now. Thank you, Council, for redirecting some funding to improve the grandstands, do some ADA improvements. We're planning to turf the infield, and our Public Works Director is overseeing that project. And actually, we are very fortunate to have a licensed engineer as a Public Works Director, so that design was done in-house, saving us a lot of money on having to go to a private contractor to do those plans. And then 2024 events, the mayor talked about this as well. It's the city's goal and intent to come forward in 2024 and put on city-sponsored events. So one of the ones that stands out would be Santa Fe Trail Days. That's something we've talked to the chamber already about. We'd like to take that over as a city event, certainly with the chamber's support, but make that a community event. So with our new lodging tax structure, we'll have some funding so that we can finally be in a position for us to bring events to our community instead of having to depend on just private events and being at their mercy. Two other things I just wanted to point out real quick. Councilmember Williamson brought up strategic planning. I can't emphasize how huge that is. We hope to create a robust 5-year strategic vision and plan that is a community a community process. Right now, our consultant's just getting on board. They're reviewing previous studies so we can incorporate that into our planning. But they'll be interviewing elected officials and then talking with the community. And it's an opportunity for us all to come together and decide as a community what we want to see Trinidad do in the next 5 years. So very excited for that. One final thing, we've created, Detective Leah is in the back. She kind of spearheaded an initiative to start a coalition to discuss homelessness in our community. And we've already made some really great strides, great progress, and so we're hoping that we can keep the momentum going and really come up with some good solutions, not only for our homeless, but for our residents as well. Okay, that was the big slide. So we'll move on to the next one. I just wanted to highlight a few public safety improvements, and I won't go through these in detail. You can kind of read them, but there are some that are of note. So new apparatus. We're actually buying used police cars when we can, because new police cars are very hard to get. So we have actually bought a lot of used vehicles, which saves us money. It's not necessarily our preference, but it is kind of what it is with our finances, and then also availability of equipment. We have a new police headquarters. We're doing some improvements around that as part of our First Street project. It's looking beautiful. It's a tremendous amenity right in the heart of our downtown. And then as far as our police department goes, they've done some reorganization, but the biggest thing I wanted to highlight for them is this year they became accredited, which is a really big deal. It's a Colorado state agency that accredits, correct? Colorado Association of Chiefs of Police. That's right. And it's a prestigious honor. It took years to get there, and it's demonstrative of how amazing our police department is, and how great not only our policies are, but our enforcement. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find many violent crimes in our community. So I think we're very safe, and it's attributable to a lot of our good police work. On the fire side, I wanted to talk about we are working on wildfire deployment. So if there is a wildfire that's not in our community, we have apparatus and staff that goes and responds to that. And so we're very proud of them for serving that partnership role. But one of the big things that they've accomplished, Chief Bacharach had a suggestion to implement a new software program called Code Red, and it enables our residents to go online and disclose any medical issues or other issues that might be helpful to first responders. So that way when we're responding to a call, we might know that, okay, someone in this household has a certain chronic condition that we need to be sensitive to when treating them. It's a way that we can really serve our residents better and make sure we're keeping people safe.
Just one quick, that's
Yeah.
the Community Connect.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's Community Connect. Sorry, yes. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, which is events and amenities. Again, I'm not going to read all of these. We have a lot of things going on in Trinidad, and some things are currently operational, some things are under development, but we want to keep the momentum going, like I said earlier, and like the mayor said, let's keep rocking it. Let's make this a great community that has a lot of things going on for our entire community. Again, I'm not going to read all these, but these are some of the amazing things that we've been doing, focusing on ADA projects, purchasing new public works apparatus. We completed a paving condition index, which is huge for our planning, street repairs, that type of thing. So just lots and lots of things going on. And then specific to our water department, one of our big projects right now is all of our water tanks need to be rehabilitated. So we're working on finding funding to accomplish that. It's fun. Scuba divers actually go into them and do an assessment, and we're able to move on. But just a couple of key highlights. We've replaced and installed 1,400 feet of water line on Garrett Drive to provide for new development out that way. We have the non-potable water dispensing station, which was a long time coming over on Chestnut, which is perfect for developers who may need water to tamp down soil when they're building a project. We'd rather them use non-potable than treated water. So let's go on to the next slide, which would be gas department. I won't read all these, but you can kind of gander at those and see the activity of our gas department. A lot going on. So we're very proud of their efforts and everything that they're doing. Power and electric is the next one. And so again, you can read some of those. We're doing amazing things. I think one of the big things that I'm very proud of is we replaced all of our breakers at our power plant recently. So I think, Dave, what is it? If we have a power outage, we can kick in our power plant within 20 minutes? Yes. Okay. And we have enough power at our plant to generate power to run the whole city. For how long? Until the diesel runs out.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes you'll see an outage, and I get that they last longer than 20 minutes. We're not going to fire up the plant if we know that it's only going to be for an hour or so. But if it would be an extended outage, we have the resources available to protect our community and make sure you still have electricity. One of the things I'm really proud of is we had an old cooling tower from, probably the early 1900s out there that we tore down to assist Noah's Ark, our animal shelter, to provide them a little bit more land and then also room for additional storage for some of our apparatus. Fire department, again, you can read some of these things. I think our chief is about the most public safety board fire chief I've ever met. And he's very, very good at ensuring our community is safe. He's very passionate about our community. And with that, our firefighters have certifications above and beyond what you would find in most fire departments, including water rescues. We're moving towards that right now. So if there's an accident on our river, a boating accident, or I guess a kayak accident, we would be equipped to treat that, and that's huge. So we're constantly looking at ways we can keep our community safe on the fire side. Police department, I talked a little bit about them, but we're in a transitional year, so Chief Glorioso retired this year, and so we will be starting the process of selecting our new police chief in the next few months. So right now, Mike Tohanovich is serving as our interim police chief, but we have some tremendous leadership staff holding down the fort over on our police department, and we're looking forward to good things to come on how we continue to keep our community safe. And tourism, yes, that's always a big one. So just, again, you can read some of these things. I do want to highlight just a couple of things. Destination Blueprint is a grant from the Colorado Tourism Office, a grant and a partnership. We're one of only 10 communities selected in the state to go through this program. And it'll help us chart out a course for how we can better serve our tourists, better attract people to our community, and come together as a community for how we serve our tourists. One of the things I'm very proud of is we've made some staffing changes, and we've actually, Marty Hackett is now officed over here, and she's created a downtown welcome center right here at Space to Create. So people who come downtown to walk up and down Main Street now have a place they can go to learn about our town, figure out where to go eat, and get information that they need to have an incredible experience here in Trinidad. Outdoor recreation is a big one. I'm not going to go through these. The mayor talked about most of these already. But we had a tremendously successful Rad Festival. I was so excited. I came out Friday night, the night before the race, and all of downtown was just fired up. Lots of positive vibes. Our restaurants were full. It was what we want to see Trinidad be. And I can tell you that we started with, I believe, around 600 cyclists 3 years ago, to about 750 last year, to well close to 1,000 this year. So it's gaining popularity, and it's quickly becoming an event that I think is going to be a staple for community as we move forward and grow. I do want to mention, because this is cool, our skate park, it's its 20-year anniversary, and if you've looked at it, it's not in the best of shape. So we are actively working to do a redesign and polish it up and make it great, do some ADA accessibility improvements to it, and then come back in 2024 on its 21st year with a re-grand opening. So very excited for that. And where is that? Carnegie Public Library, again, lots going on there. I feel bad for our library because they sometimes get lost in the shuffle, but we are so privileged to have the library director, Jessica Huffman, that we have. She does a tremendous job. I think people in our community don't realize the library services we have. But one of the things I wanted to point out on the library side is that last bullet, the Library of Things. If you've never heard of what that is, it's a new trend that ALA, the American Library Association, is promoting. And we're looking to get things in our inventory like telescopes, those types of things that can be checked out, just like a library book that you could use video camping. I'd love to partner with the college, and they have a bunch of old musical instruments that we could have fixed up and be available for checkout if someone wants to learn how to play the violin and that type of thing. So lots of cool things, very robust summer reading program this past year, so that was great to see as well. And with that, I'm going to stop and pause for questions, but I think actually before I do that, let's have Anissa kind of talk about our destination app that is very exciting for our community.
So before you leave
Sure.
the podium, we had one question submitted in advance.
Oh yeah, please, what is the question?
And it's currently the Commons is a place for artists to sell products. It is being discussed to change the purpose of the facility to a restaurant/food counter and a convention center. How are our partners in art space reacting to this change, and what increased cost will be necessary to retrofit this building to accommodate the cooking hoods and implements?
Okay, and that's a terrific question, and we already have a commercial kitchen right behind you, and the intent was to have a restaurant in this facility. We'd still like to get there. So that's something that's planned as part of this building. So right now, our kitchen's actually being used by a couple of our food trucks to be their commissary for preparing their meals. But as far as the idea of this becoming an event center, that's already within the scope of the original agreement and funding requests that we have done. First and foremost, absolutely, this needs to be an art-centric facility. There's no question about that. We have the Smithsonian event coming later in December. We have artists that are displaying their artwork currently. We just had our Good Night Moon event to great success. Those things will not stop. But in the meantime, we also have an opportunity to use this as an event center, which will in turn generate revenue and rental fees that we can put back into the facility to continue to support our artists. So it's kind of a symbiotic thing where we want to make sure we're maximizing the use of this tremendous building, focusing on art, of course, but then also making sure that we're not losing the opportunity to get people to Trinidad and see what we have to offer. Okay, I'll let Anissa talk a little bit about our destination app.
Are we not doing questions right now?
We will after Anissa.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to be really quick. There's a bunch of materials that I printed out and put on the tables for you. One of them is about our destination app. It is with Wishtrip. It is a white label app, so it is Trinidad's destination app. The cool thing about the app is it's GPS based, and before somebody even gets here, they can pick up an itinerary or two and create their vacation. When they get here, the app checks them in, welcomes them to Trinidad, and when they're done with all their adventuring, they get a free video that they can share on social media that has our brand on it. So right now we have the Main Street Board, LTAB, which is the Lodging Tax Advisory Board, and several community volunteers working on the last stages of finalizing the app, which is putting the treks and spots in to create those itineraries, which would be, let's say, a foodie itinerary, where somebody can go around and sample the taste of Trinidad or whatever we have to offer. The app is free to use for residents, visitors. It's free to put your business on. You want people to be able to find you, and you can tell them about your business. You can use video, audio, text, pictures, links, whatever it is. My card is on the table. If you have not signed up for that, please do. Do you want me to just go through this real quick? And are you done?
No, I think we're
okay. So there's a voter guide. I did print out a contact card for all your city departments and important folks at City Hall that you might need to get a hold of. Feel free to take one. We will be doing a monthly newsletter. It'll be digital, and for pickup, we will send it out in a condensed version 4 times a year. I set up a resource guide, which got started with the Homeless Coalition. There's a lot of information in there. It's everything in the community that you might need to know. Let's see what else. The Smithsonian, really cool. So Ken Chapin has really done some amazing things with the Smithsonian events. He has 18 companion events set up to go along with the normal Smithsonian events. So we have almost 8 weeks of arts, culture, and history going on in Trinidad in almost every building on Main and Commercial. It's going to be fantastic. November 17th is the first event. Then I printed out some cards about venue rentals for the Commons. You have the Tola Garage back here that has the 4 spaces. We had a free law day, and the lawyers were able to go into the cubicles and consult with people who had questions about legal issues, and it just really worked out well. Then you have the flex space here. You have a conference room here. 2 work rooms back here that have a sink. Then you have the Creative Commons area where Margie is. There's the kitchen, the cafe, the back deck. There's a lot here in this building, and we've had funeral receptions, wedding receptions, meetings, and it's really affordable. This is really cool. It's the SIR program. It is a senior community service employment program. It is a Title V program For individuals 55 and over that are 125% or lower under the poverty line, they pay $17.29 an hour plus the workman's comp, and the employee is free to the organization or the city. So you have to be a 501 or a government agency to be able to hire these individuals. But for our seniors, this is a great work program. Then there's the Community Connect that Steve already talked about. Disability Law of Colorado and ARC of Colorado had a meeting here the other day. And a lot of their questions revolved around our school system, accessibility to care and services. So they're going to be coming back and using one of these cubicles back here to do a few more meetings for the public to come out and talk about their concerns in disability. Our representative at the Capitol was here, so he's looking for individuals that are willing to testify, either remotely or at the Capitol, about their issues with accessibility, mobility, and disability issues, whether it's getting disability or dealing with your insurance company, whatever the case may be. I think I covered everything.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot.
I knew it's all over there, so I got done fast.
All right, questions, please.
Yeah, what'd you say? So one of my questions is this all printed out, Steve? Is your presentation printed out someplace that we can have access to?
It is being filmed and it'll be archived on YouTube. So, but yeah, and we can make the PowerPoint available as well.
Where can I
on our
access
Facebook
that?
page, on our Nextdoor page. We have a Nextdoor page, we have a Facebook page, we have a LinkedIn page. I can make the PowerPoint available there. It'll be on the YouTube channel, which I'll share. And then if you put your name on the mailing list, I'll be happy to send you a link so that you can look through it yourself.
Okay, well, just one of those would work. But
whatever works for you.
I just want to be able to review because, okay, really impressed with how much is going on, but I have no idea now what information to walk away with. And I don't know if it's just me, but I can't remember all of that. So I want to be able to go back and refer to it.
Absolutely.
But one question I do have, if we have such an abundance of water, why did our water rates just spike like crazy in August?
Yeah, so it's not about availability of water, it's about the cost to treat it and provide the service. So PVC pipe, just for example, to run a water line is 4 or 5 times the price of what it was just a few years ago. The chemicals we use to treat are very expensive. Again, our water tanks are in need of $4 million plus worth of repair work. So the cost to operate the system is totally different than the availability of water.
And that all happened all at once?
No, what happened was, just candidly, the city has actually not raised water rates in many years. In fact, I think, Mark, what did we decide since 1972? Yeah, Mark can address this. Yeah, thank you, Mark.
I have a copy of water bill from 1975.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you what?
Yeah, come use the microphone. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, now, I have a copy of a water bill from 1975. Our water rates at that point were $6.18 a month. Prior to the water rate study, pre-April, it was $16.50 a month for 7,000. It was 1,000 cubic feet, which is equal to 7,500 gallons of water. Our rates have only gone up, $10.32 in the past 47 years. That's it. Cost of pipes gone up 200 to 300% in just the past 2 years since COVID. You could buy a four-wheel drive truck in 1975 for between $5,000 and $7,500. A four-wheel drive truck now is roughly $50,000 to $75,000.
So can we expect these kinds of increases in the future then, or is this
No,
one
well,
time?
our water rates went up 50%, 1.5 times. And that's not even getting us to where we need. We have a lot of people on fixed incomes that are retired that can't afford where we really needed to go. But this at least gets us where our heads are above water right now, where we can at least start to afford, like we said, we're replacing right now 1,400 feet of 6-inch water main up on Garrett Drive that we've had multiple leaks on and we just needed to replace it. And that's not even an old infrastructure. But that pipe was around 1,400 feet of pipe, just the pipe alone was around $30,000. You know, so we're pulling the revenue in that we needed to. I believe we fixed over 20 water leaks last year. We have to buy pipe, repair clamps, dresser couplers.
Okay, so it's materials and labor. Okay.
Materials and labors with, yes, exactly. As we spoke earlier, we need to start looking at, if something happens at North Lake, we lose our water supply. We have water rights stored in the Trinidad Lake Reservoir. We need to start finding ways to get money where we can build a water treatment plant downstream of the Trinidad Lake, so that if something like that happens, we are already in business where we can continue to provide water for the city of Trinidad. Those are some major improvements that we need to start looking to progress to bring to Trinidad.
So when will the next rate hike come?
We're
If
going-
we just got to a place where you're breaking even,
Correct.
and now we want to grow the community and have
That's
all these
correct.
people move here, so the next.
So what I've told council is at the end of the year, we'll look to see where these rates are bringing us. We'll look to see where we're at. And then I'll come up with a 5-year plan to see what we need to do for the next 5 years. If it's 1%, 5%, 10% per year, so it's not such a big jump all in one year like it was this year. So we're gonna look at the revenue at the end of the year, see where we're at, and then see where we need to be in the next 5 years. And we'll have a plan moving forward. We don't want to do this again.
No, that really hurt.
It does. But if you look at it, 50% increase at $16.50 a month is only $8.25 a month. Sounds like 50% is a lot, but it's not a lot of money.
I paid $100 more a month on my utility bill, and it's all water. I was paying about $150.
Where you at?
Now I'm $250.
Where you at?
Kansas and Willow.
Your water bill, you pay how much on the water?
Well, it went up about $100.
Your whole utility bill.
The whole but it's the water portion, only the water portion that went up. That's all. When I went and paid my bill down, at the City Hall, I said, why did it go up so much? She said, I don't know.
Okay, well, if you're not going over the minimum, you get 7,500 gallons of water for $24.75 a month.
How many?
7,500 gallons of water. That's your monthly minimum for $24.75. So if you don't go over that 7,500 gallons of water, you shouldn't pay more than $24.
Okay, am I the only one whose water bill went up crazy?
Yes.
I am?
Yes.
We'll talk to City Hall, Billy, about your
So we need to look, if you're going
Well,
over,
that's what I asked, if I had a lead.
If you're
I'm
going-
the only one, really?
if
Then I don't want to take up anybody.
no,
I don't
that's
wanna
fine,
take up
but
any
just
more
real
time.
quick, if you have that high of a water bill, you need to get a hold of us so we can find out. You may have a water leak. You could get a hold of myself or
Well, just
get a
who
hold
do I,
of
because
Billy.
they couldn't tell me at City Hall.
Well, just come and see me. And we have in my meters now. We can look on the system, and it can show us your water consumption. It can show us how much you're using
Okay.
per hour, every hour of the day, 24 hours a day, all month long. We could look at your account and see what's going on.
I did call up the water department, and they said, yeah, but you just said it went up 50%, but nobody else is feeling it.
Everybody's went up 50%, but it was only
Then how come
$16.50. It was only $16.50 a month in the city limits.
Yeah, I think we need to look at this individual account, so apologies, but yeah, we don't need to, I don't think we have the information we need to figure this out right now. Yes, question back there.
I'm so sorry about my voice again. First question is, there's so many amazing activities happening for the Smithsonian. I am one of those
Great.
things, and I'm so grateful for Anissa and all the amazing support, so thank you. But where is the calendar? How do I find it? How do I support it? I am not on Facebook, so that's an issue. I understand. I'm also not super gung-ho on social media, so maybe that's part of the reason. And then my second question is, ArtSpace is a national organization, private organization. My friend has a space in the ArtSpace in New York. And myself and Barbara live upstairs. We are artists and we are in residence here. We do not have our art in the gallery as said described on the ArtSpace initiative. Don't necessarily know why. I'm just curious. The person that I've been told to be in contact with is not contacting me back. Again, no fingers pointed, just curious. And also, if you could help me understand the relationship between art space and the city, because I'd love for Barbara's part, first of all, she's an amazing portrait artist for pets, so please support her. But I'd love to have our work featured. Brett, another community member that is active here in the space to create, his work has since been located here, but from what I can tell, all of the art in that beautiful store corner, by the way, I think $18 million was put into this building, and it wasn't. None of those people live in this building. And I would just love to have it be used for what it says it's supposed to be used for.
So they live on the Elm Street building. They live in the Elm Street building. And the Elm Street apartment complex is part of Art Space. There's 2 buildings.
So that's amazing, but again, there's no way for us to I'm sure that we'd like to gather and we'd like to just be able to update it or be able to rotate it so again, nothing really specific, but I just don't know who my point of contact is.
I will give you that information. We've just had a change in employees over at Art Space. Now, Art Space, that area that you're talking about, we do not run that. Art Space does. You're going to need to talk to Amber Rivas. She's the new person that's running the office, and she deals with that particular gallery.
That's fantastic.
This Commons Gallery and the incubator retail spaces and those are all part of the Commons and Space to Create. Art Space is the maker spaces below and the gallery on the corner.
So behind the Welcome Center?
That way, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Steve, it'd be good that if she gets no response, that we as a city can put pressure on her.
Absolutely.
It's just a lucrative opportunity, and there's so much talent, and there's such great things happening here, but there seems to be a disconnection. I know that position was empty for a while.
It was.
So it's again, no pointing fingers. I know we're active community members, and we'd love to support everything that's going on,
So see me before you leave, and I'll give you that contact.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
So if you don't get any response, you have to put some pressure on Art Space.
Yeah, and then also the Smithsonian activities, really, where can we find those?
So that will all be through the Commons and Creative District website.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a question here, and Tom, did you have a? Okay, go ahead.
I'm Bryce Kennedy. I live on Locker Street. If anybody's been down there, I live in a nice brick house. My question though is about the homeless. So we know it's going to be very cold this year. I read the Farmer's Almanac. I'm country as hell. I don't know if anybody else reads the Farmer's Almanac, but this is going to be a very, 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 very bitter cold winter.
Yeah.
What are we doing to warm this community of unhoused people?
That's a terrific question. So the question is, what are we going to do for the homeless over the winter? So again, the Homeless Coalition is rocking it. And that was one of the first things that we talked about actually in July, recognizing that the cold season was coming up. So Zion Lutheran Church is a designated shelter, and we are establishing everything we need to do. Pastor Clay, who is intimately involved with the homeless, is getting the word out to them that there is that place to go, and then also our community center is a backup shelter. So we want to make sure we're ready to go. Any sign of freezing cold temperatures where we need to get people indoors, we will be on it.
Because my concern is that Pastor Clay, he doesn't have enough community support that he needs.
Yeah.
Because he has support, yes, but as a community, as a family of Trinidad, we're only as strong as our weakest link.
And what we're finding is there's actually an abundance of services for the homeless and lower income folks in our community, but no one's coordinating that. So that's where this coalition, I think, is really going to help us come together and connect better on the resources that are already available and identify where we need to have more resources.
All right.
Okay. We have Tom, and then we'll go over here.
So for those of you that don't know me, most of you here do, I'm Tom Murphy. I'm the owner of the Chappelle House, which is my residence. It's a funeral home. It's a TV studio. It's a lot of things. But I want to give a shout out to the city because one of the things that has happened in recent history is thanks to the Historic Preservation Commission, a couple of years I got my local landmark designation. And I've been putting money in rehabbing my building since 1981. I got here actually in 1982. I'm starting to think now with all the good things that are happening, I might stick around. But But I recently got my OEDIT, I think it is, submitted, and we have a 25% tax credit that we get back, and actually there's another 10%, so it's 35%. And I sat down with Keely, and we came up with, I've kind of forgotten this, but we come up with over $190,000 of improvements that I've done over the last several years. So if this works out, it's going to be 35%. It's the city that did that, the Historic Preservation Commission. So as we look at all these positive things up there, it's like, as a small business, that's huge for me. That's going to be really big. It's not finalized yet, and you know, they may toss some things out, or I may not have all the exact accounting put together, but the point is, it's like the city, just listen to this presentation about how proactive they are. And for me, if this is successful, it's like going to be a happy dance. So, and we're going to be utilizing the building that I have for doing some new business, and I'm not going to tell everybody what it is. Some people already know, but it's right along the lines with the climbing and the recreation that we have. So, but anyway, to the city, thank you.
Howard, thank you.
Let's talk about one of my favorite subjects, our river. And what I would like to hear from you is, how do you see river in Trinidad's overall picture? Number one, from recreational. Number two, from being looked at through Parks and Rec, I think, which needs to happen. We need to have coordinated work on the river, coordinated recreational opportunities. We have a couple of businesses now that are making a living on the river. So this is one of the things I think that to get to that cool place we want to be, the city has to really involve themselves in that more than they have, and then get people that have been involved in it to know, you know, how this thing goes together, because that is becoming a big draw for right along with that, you know, Boulevard Edition, all the way to connection with the state park, all the way through 350 and 60. So we have hiking, we have boating, we have I don't know how many have been down there. That river corridor is a tremendous wildlife corridor. You can see kingfishers, blue heron. You see 2 ospreys down there. You got deer, you got raccoons, you got bears, which others haven't seen. You've got all these things that are down there, which is part of the quality of life thing toward the big city. You don't see that anymore. You don't see, you know, you go on the South Platte, which has been a great development for development, but it's all cement. We are natural.
Yeah.
We have, you know, we're working on talking about a new trail on the north side of the river that we just natural, no cement. So these are all things that the city can be very proud of, but we need to incorporate it into the city's thought process, because it will generate a lot of tax, lots of tax. The old, when we first started the project, one of the examples I used is, somebody comes up and goes fishing, he spends 3 days here, he's got to go to Purgatory River and buy $500 worth of jewelry so he can come back. And those things really do. So let's really think about that. Let's get that involved in the city process, city planning. You know, I know we've got the river visioning, which is a whole different thing with parks and everything else. This is, excuse me, the corridor itself, which is going to be a tremendous asset for this community.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yes.
Any news on getting a better grocery store?
Yay! That's where we're at the mercy of the private sector. We would love to see another grocery store here. And again, we'll partner on our economic development approaches to see what we can do as a community to attract another grocery store in our area.
In the meantime, the co-op's pretty great.
So, a long time ago, I was part of this space to create in this kitchen. Where are we getting the money to put gas in there, put venting? Are we going to move the people that are in this apartment right here out of there? Because I know I don't want to pay $900 for an apartment to get the exhaust from a kitchen coming up right there.
If you go outside and look at that space where the kitchen is, it actually doesn't have anything above it. And the kitchen was purposely put there so it could have an exhaust system.
So then why do we not put one, two, three?
Because it was mostly because the mayor didn't talk about this, but he was instrumental in finding, what was it, $800,000 in that money to make sure this project actually came to fruition. So unfortunately, in value engineering the project, there were some things that had to wait. The great thing is, because we could only spend our lodging tax on marketing and advertising, we have actually an abundance of reserves that we're trying to spend down. So the Lodging Tax Advisory Board and the City Council, Lodging Tax Advisory Board made the recommendation, the council approved it, $130,000 out of lodging tax for improvements to this building, including the audio-visual renovations, but also updating the kitchen to get a professional hood, a dishwasher, and everything that it needs to be a full-service kitchen. We have a question over here, and then we'll go over to you, Beth. Yes?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
With all this outdoor recreation, as someone who had the privilege to personally go to Fisher's Peak every weekend, to the very top, because I knew the owner.
Yeah.
And now with not only my age, but my condition, you leave nothing for me to enjoy where I used to enjoy. What are we doing to address the people who are a lot of my age, who grew up on that Fisher's Peak, who no longer will have access to?
So in terms of amenities in town or amenities at Fisher's Peak
Being able to
itself?
be on Fisher's Peak to get to the top like you used to.
And that
It's
is-
all hiking, biking.
Sure.
Now, when I went to, brought my son with his new wife just to visit the rest of Colorado, everywhere in Colorado Springs, they cater to us just as much as they cater to the people who wanted to walk. We got to see everything, go everywhere, go to the top. We seem to forget that the people who founded this part of the city who are left are those that are in my age and conditions that can't appreciate it. And we're forgetting about us.
Sure. Well, a couple things on that. So Fisher's Peak is a state park, so we don't administer it at all.
But you're in charge of being part of it, you still have access to forward that information to them.
Yeah, and we will, but thank you for that suggestion. I was going to say that we're happy to get with our regional rep and say that that's an issue that has come up from our community. One of the big things, we're under Department of Justice orders to improve ADA accessibility in our community. To me, that's not enough. So a couple of things that we're exploring right now is having dedicated accessible routes where we would have signage and potentially lower speed limits and have those as identified corridors for people who need assistance in getting around it. We prioritize snow route removal. So that's one thing. Also, I really want to see us get for our kids who are disabled to an accessible playground as well that they can enjoy. But we're open to any suggestion, thoughts you have that you're seeing in other communities. I'd love to hear them. I'm sure the council would too. We really do want to make this a community that's beneficial to everyone. Again, the transportation system that is conceptual right now, if that were to come to fruition, that would be an amazing opportunity for people to get around. We've even had discussions with them about what's the potential of having a stop that would take you up to the top of Simpson's Rest for people who wouldn't otherwise be able to hike up there or get up there in other means. But I really appreciate that, and I think I'd love to see Trinidad be a model for aging in place as a small community and allow people who are long-term residents and are aging to A, stay in their home, and B, have a quality of life that supports what they're trying to accomplish here.
As part of your answer, I know I talked to Mr. Bradley, and of course,
Yeah,
the master plan. The master plan was drawn up, I'm not sure if you looked at that. But, Fisher's Peak is just in its inception right now. And it's going to take several years before it is completely built up. And they need to, and will be looking at ADA access. I'm not sure how much ADA access, but I'm sure we'll be able to answer some.
And it's probably not just disabilities, but just other people who need to get around. So we will definitely send that message along to them and in our conversations, make sure they're aware of that concern.
Yes, I miss phone number.
Can you contact me, please? Because can you contact me? I'll give you my card, and I'd like to talk to you about your issues with getting up there and just with the supplemental oxygen.
Then you have a
because
question?
we've been dealing with somebody
I'm
who
just
came down
curious if you
here.
can give a little more detail on the Homes Coalition. I know it's been going for a few months now, but we haven't really heard anything about where they're at, what they're exactly talking about, no involved, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know, Detective Blade, do you want to be put on the hot seat, or do you want me to go ahead and give a summary? Okay, I'll give a summary. So we started with a larger coalition of people we identified as community partners to service our homeless, and had some terrific meetings, got some great insight, and really were able to bond as a service provider community on understanding what resources we do have and what resources we don't have. From there, we've created an executive team, a smaller group, who's kind of the steering committee for our efforts. What our short-term goals were what I already described, making sure going into this winter we have a safe place for our homeless to go to stay out of the weather. That's probably the first and foremost goal. We're actively working right now to identify a site in town to have a temporary homeless camp where we can provide a dedicated space for our homeless to reside that would allow them to have services available such as charging stations, water taps, clean restrooms that are maintained. And then also it helps us from a public safety standpoint. If there's a problem, we know where they're at. We know how to get to them instead of having people spread out throughout our community. And certainly being sensitive to our residents who use a lot of our public amenities. There's some friction, I'll be honest, with our residents and some of our members who are unhoused. So we want to kind of strike a good balance of how we can serve both populations as best as we can. Long-term goal, we've been looking at models such as there's one in Alamosa where they have created a permanent homeless camp. And we'd like to get to a model similar to that actually maybe even do even better than them. And they're doing really well, so I don't say that to criticize them at all. But we really want to do what we can to make sure we're being mindful of our residents' needs and the needs of our unhoused residents as well. So more to come. I think technically probably we will want to do an update to the City Council sometime before the end of the year. So we'll bring that to a public meeting and have that discussion so you can hear in full detail all the good work that's going on. Other questions? Loki, do you have a question?
Why aren't there more beds? 24-hour emergency luxurious vet care.
Well, I just wanted to, first of all, thank you all for taking time out of your Wednesday night to be here. It's really great to see new faces and familiar faces. I want to take the time to echo what the mayor said earlier. I'm only one person, the mayor's one person, council members are all individuals. Our staff is really good. They take a lot of criticism, and I understand it. I've been in local government for a long time, and I've heard everything. But I see hard workers that come in day to day. In fact, there's a provision of our city charter that requires, even though I don't think it's necessary, that departments assist other departments. And I see that day in and day out, even as something as simple as the holiday decorations, which we are trying to beef up. And last year was a great example of that. We had all of our departments come in and help us install holiday decorations. Everyone's willing to help. I know we're not always the most responsive. We could always use more staff to accomplish everything. We're never going to have the funding to solve all of the problems, and that's why we have the tough job of having to prioritize all of those needs. But thank you for your support, and I would just encourage you all to keep Trinidad positive. I think when we talk about Trinidad elsewhere, we're talking about the beauty, the weather, the wonderful people here, and let's do that with each other as well. Any other questions?